tonight from here in Colorado, where, yeah, weed is legit and recreationally legal. So, YouTube, that's a statement to you. We're not doing it on air. And I have Eddie here with me today. He's our fellow Political Revolution moderator.
Good evening. How are you?
We're doing great tonight. We got some results coming in already from Indiana. So I kind of wanted to jump in and talk about some of our endorsements there. Right now, it looks like we have Dion Douglas pulling in with third place with 696 votes to Dee Thornton in Indiana's 5th Congressional District. You should be able to see that on screen. We'll be having results panning across our coverage tonight, and those will be up to date, so you can kind of track along with how the stats are coming in and follow the discussion. And in Indiana's 6th Congressional District, we also have Lane Siekman, one of our endorsed candidates, in third place as well. So we're starting off kind of, reminiscent of the pattern that we've seen in a lot of the races we've been tracking. And we want to see those progressives do strong. So what are your thoughts on that, Eddie?
I mean, yeah, definitely. We need to start, this is going to be like one of those make or break battles for I guess for the rest of the progressive base. I kind of want to deviate from that real quick. There's some results from West Virginia.
Oh, look at that.
We have 1040 total votes with Joe Manchin at 63.2 to Paula Jean's 36.8. So far, I think these are mail-in ballots or early ones, so this is just the beginning.
Look at that. So mail-in ballots are showing Joe with a 63%. Is that what you just said there?
Yep. Yeah, 63 to Paula's 36.
Okay, so nothing too out of the ordinary, right? Not a surprise with what we're kind of expecting with some of the polling going into that race. But yeah, I really want to see, how our progressive turnout comes on this day. I was watching Paula earlier today, kind of galvanizing voters out by the polls, and Facebook Living, things like that. And regardless of what happens today, this is going to be a huge statement on kind of what the blue wave or our progressive wave really looks like. So it's good to see, the start with that.
Yeah, definitely. This is, I always remember Paula being one of the first people, from coming into this whole political revolution, the extended, it's extended, to the down ballot races, to all these things that you really would never consider. I could never see myself I would never think I'd see myself right now, losing my mind over over West Virginia. Now this is one of the biggest, this is going to be one of our biggest contests tonight, along with Dennis Kucinich running in Ohio.
Yeah, and that's another big one to track, and polling recently for that one has shown, a really good mixed bag of, a lead runner versus our progressive message candidate. We're seeing the battle between Cordray and Dennis really heat up in the past month alone. And, they were just tied in one of the polls recently, both kind of hovering around 25% of the voters. So let's see how that starts to come in. And we'll hopefully hear a little bit from the Kucinich campaign as well later on our stream. We're going to have potentially one of our political revolutionaries jump in with a watch party that they're attending with Dennis over there. So we'll see how they're doing tonight. That's a good one to track. Big thing for Ohio.
I guess we should start looking at Indiana.
Yeah, those results are still trickling in, it looks like. I want to go ahead and kind of pan through those races. So with Indiana's 5th, we still have Dion in 3rd. We just have about 29% of precincts reporting right now. And with that, the same kind of margins are existing. We have Dee Thornton, a Democrat, already, taking first, and we'll see how that pattern continues throughout the night. Looks like they're also just fighting against Kyle Brendan Moore. So let's see what happens there.
In District 7, we have Sue Spicer, which is going against Andre Carson, the incumbent, the Democratic incumbent for District 7. So far, only 4 precincts, and it's only at 109 to 27.
Well, that one looks like it just updated, Eddie, and looks like a good slew of
Oh,
precincts came in, and we have about 18% of precincts, 82 of them, and the lead is still showing the same pattern, 4,271 for Andre and
okay.
about 550 for Sue. But she's holding that second place there, you know, and it shows that her messaging reached 11% of the voters. It's kind of
Yeah.
showing a cool pattern there.
Yeah, we still have to remember, this, the same thing happened in Illinois with Dan Lipinski. Dan
Right.
Lipinski and his rival, and that was one of the closest margins, we've seen in a while. I think I still have like, you know, how, how those results came in. It stood really close to where, just like a few more votes and she would have been in.
That's right. I mean, it can really cut down to the wire, and what we really want to see is like how much strategy went into these campaigns, you know, bringing their message to the table. May is going to be that, you know, turning point for all of us in these election cycles. So we're gonna hear a lot tonight, and you know, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little anxious. I don't know if you can hear it in me, but we'll see what it
I
feels like in the end, right? And I
Yeah,
think ultimately, you know, showing these percentages is really gonna say a lot about what campaigns can go doing forward.
yeah. Tonight's going to be huge for our candidates and, I guess the way we go forward. Because when's the next big primary? In June?
Well, we have three more states on May 15th, uh, four more states on May 22nd. And, you know, every Tuesday in May is going to be, you know, just accelerating into more primaries in June, more primaries in July.
Yeah.
One in August that I'm pretty fondly aware of. That's going to be, you know, a big project. It's going to be a lot of candidates this summer, and we're going to get to start to see what that wave looks like. So this today is our pedestal going into a lot of these elections on how things will be messaged, how things will pan out for, you know, this divide in the Democratic Party versus Republicans and what they're banking on. So, you know, that's one thing I also wanted to jump into about, you know, Blankenship actually regarding the West Virginia race. Don Blankenship is already having some great returns, and
Yeah,
that's a
no, he's
concern.
closing in.
Yeah, that's a concern for West Virginia and the gubernatorial race, or sorry, the senatorial races there.
Yeah.
So,
And it's even worse because we have someone like Joe Manchin that's friendly with these people.
right,
Because again, like what happens in all these contests that, you're not going to go, you can dictate. I mean, you can say as much as you want that you're either the lesser evil, you're the most,
right.
close, you're closest to the better person. But in states like West Virginia, do you really think, or if they're going to get Republican light, and we've already seen West Virginia take a very sharp turn,
Mm-hmm.
from left wing politics to right wing politics, with their own governors switching, switching from Democratic to Republican, and now it's a Republican trifecta. So, Blankenship has a chance, and seeing like his disgusting credentials, that's not good.
That's one thing that's, you know, upsetting about potentially the messaging for the Democrats. They're trying to keep a status quo right now in a state where there's a potential rising opposition that has a foothold, like you're saying, Eddie. And I think, you know, that's going to be determined by the results of, you know, what happens with the symbol of things like Paula and the other, you know, progressive, you know, bastion of candidates that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is we have the state senate in West Virginia starting to really show, you know, candidacies, campaigns that are, you know, legitimately progressive, a staunch message in the face of this red in our country. West Virginia, in my opinion, is the battleground for messaging, and there's a really big chance that, you know, once we get that start from the local grassroots up, we're going to see that, you know, Joe Manchin really actually failed by messaging and cheating almost. We're going to hear things about him rigging this election, I bet. We're going to hear about, you know, all of the potential Democratic arguments that we have, the divide that we see, is going to start coming up and flaring up and start, you know, getting hopefully more into the other elections. We'll see that progressive tide actually succeeding.
Yeah. No, stuff like, as you said previously, the how like Democratic mudslinging at these at these progressive candidates, they're going to keep growing, especially if there's a Blankenship victory.
That would really, really embarrass us, right? I mean, that the Democrats, the fact that they want to continue their potential corporatist kind of messaging, where to me that it just feels like they're carpetbagging, because they're trying to take on these seats from outside of their purview. They're not interested in what the people actually think of their local respective districts. And the state of West Virginia, it clearly has some needs for progressive change. We've
Yeah,
seen that not only by just the mainstream's projections of the debate there on the ground. We've seen Bernie Sanders kind of go in and talk to the locals there, but we also see it in the local community. This is a big uniting effort in the message that shows that the genuine nature of need for progressive change in West Virginia. So it's going to be a disappointment if the Democrats don't listen to that local message, get to the people, and
yeah,
actually start making and affecting those changes.
yeah, and it's fading. Their chances are genuinely fading because, again, no matter how much of a blue wave you have, if you lose a state like West Virginia, the Democrats already have a divide. There's already a divide in practically every issue. There's already a divide when it comes to the former Democrats that are now becoming Republicans because, again,
Right.
their own governor, like a Democratic governor became Republican. So what do you think if, they're going to continue seeing that, with Democratic policies that don't even go to West Virginia, they're not going to do anything.
I heard
And
something, in our community, someone in Discord actually discussing about how, they don't like the fact that, it's going to be a blue wave because, and this is the way of messaging here. The waves, they come in and then they go back out and they just leave.
yeah,
They're not necessarily going to show the true change that is needed in this country, and this country, rides on messages of change in ways that, only a millennial can understand, right? Right. So, and there's like an aspect to bringing about real change and not just floating and sitting around the center. No one likes somebody who sits on the fence all the time. That's the problem.
yeah, and it's not feasible in politics.
Right.
Yeah, it's not. It's not feasible in any of these things because, again, these are people's lives at stake.
Right.
This is the livelihood of people at stake, and something. And and this is the best place to show whether your ideology has something for
Right.
people in this country, not just West Virginia. And as you said, this is the same thing that happens all the time. When the Republican Revolution happened in the 90s, you've seen when we saw a mass of the giant swath of Republicans come into the House of Representatives,
Mm-hmm.
governments. A lot of them left, but many of them still linger on. And this is what happens in a Democratic administration, most likely, and in a Republican administration. It's how
Yeah.
you, I guess, control that message for you to maintain your seat, which shows that, like the only real message they're having is just, we're not the Republicans. And it only works for a midterm election because that's what the Republicans did in 2014 when when they got, when they retook the Senate.
And I mean, if those cycles pervade every decade, right, we're going to have Republicans doing the same kind of message towards the center, with Democrats doing towards the center. That's the argument for, right, what happens with centrism in politics. But let's get back to results real quick, and kind of I wanted to jump in on some of the North Carolina results coming in as well. Right now, I'm seeing a few of our candidates are kind of showing the same patterns as we described from the other races. Um, Gerald Wong, right now, he's in second place in North Carolina's 6th congressional district. He has about 24% of the vote to Ryan's 76% of the vote. We do have one leader, two leader, or actually just one leader in North Carolina currently in the 11th district, Philip Price. Our community endorsed Philip Price, and he's leading with 44%. So that's actually some pretty good news. Let's keep tracking that one. We've got two Janets in Ohio. The Janet Everhard in the 2nd Congressional District, and Janet Garrett, who is leading in the 4th Congressional District currently.
Nice.
She has 87% of the vote. I have a feeling, that we got one Janet in here. That's really good.
It'll be a Janet revolution.
The Janet Revolution. You heard it here.
I'm calling it, and I'm not wrong. Let's see, what else do we have? Has Ohio come in yet?
Yep, it looks like Dennis and Tara's results are starting to pour in. Now, remember, all of these results are very early, so we could be just seeing things like mail-in ballots. We haven't seen a lot of the trickling in towards the latter stages of election result nights where it starts to get really minute in the details. But right now, Dennis and Tara are in 2nd place. Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton, his running mate, they're at 66% of the vote, 37,755, to Dennis and Tara's 15%, 8,861 votes currently. So, yeah, that's the start. Let's see how it kind of pans out.
Yeah. So far, with West Virginia, since we're talking about that, so far, but there's only 3 precincts in for the Republican primary. So Morrissey's still leading, with Blankenship starting to shoot up a little bit.
So, Eddie, are you following along some of the Republican races as well? And I know those are starting to seal.
Yeah, no, I'm following I guess the biggest ones,
Okay.
which is really Blankenship's, Blankenship's contest.
Right.
Yeah, and I heard someone related to Mike Pence, I think.
Greg Pence.
Yeah, Greg Pence.
Right.
Oh yeah, his brother. Yeah, wins the Republican nomination for his old seat.
Yep, Pence in Indiana is a continuing phenomenon, I gotta say. The Pence revolution, it exists.
We saw this here on April. It's an Easter miracle.
Don't act a fool here. It's true. There's another Pence in Indiana.
I'm telling you, that we're probably gonna find a Pence somewhere on Reddit. Just be like, yeah, we're here in like Wisconsin.
I wonder what's going on the Pence these days.
Yeah, we should start dedicating a show for like, where's Pence? Where keeping up with the Pences there. Yeah, so let's see. Has there been anything major online so far? I'm sorry if I'm like going back to random things.
That's totally cool. I'm just panning through some results, and everything's kind of holding pattern. I want to talk a little bit about Indiana's 9th Congressional District. I see Daniel Cannon is in 2nd place. He's a Justice Democrat candidate, and he has 32% right now with with about 49% of the precincts reporting. So Indiana's 9th Congressional District, starting to, show about halfway. That's a solid pattern there. So it looks like we may not get that one.
Yeah. And again, it's pretty early. Do you know exactly how many candidates we have running?
37.
Oh, wow.
Well, actually 38. 38 endorsed candidates and 37 races.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, this is going to be probably a pretty long return so far.
Yeah, we don't even have a lot of the West Virginia precincts showing for some of those smaller races. Those results have not really trickled in or given any official kind of framing for how much is going on there. We don't know until we see it.
Yeah, definitely. There's only been 2 precincts in, so this is probably going to be a while now.
Right.
Unless, they want to start hurdling stuff at us,
Mm-hmm.
which I'll take.
I mean,
But
she's not too far behind Joe. When I'm thinking of Paula right now, it's only, yeah, like you said, one
yeah,
precinct, and like it could be so early that that one precinct is really, showing one pattern one way versus the rest of the state.
yeah, and essentially
That race
it's going
should
to keep
narrow.
going, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, that race should narrow. I'm thinking.
Yeah, it'll be narrowing most likely soon because again, there's been relatively no Democratic polling
Mm-hmm.
except for Justice Democrats poll in like November, which had him at like 20, 30 something, 8.
And that was
And that's a while ago. So now it's time to really see what's going on.
And that I think this election is actually one of the more prime ones where people will actually want to get out and have a say because of how symbolic it is, really, right? We're going to start
Mm-hmm.
seeing some of it pick up. And that is my true belief that, getting out the vote as part of this whole message has really determined a few people's, reasoning on these issues. People are getting more engaged in these politics for a lot of different reasons. The mood today is, we kind of expect a lot of the things that are going to come about, but how are we all going to really kind of interpret this in the end, and how are we going to move into the next stages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only time will tell. So far, there's some steam, not really much with Ohio. What did you say last time? It was 63 to 22?
That's
Yeah,
right.
so far it's 63 to 22 for Cordray and Kucinich.
Yeah, I'm seeing 64-23.
Really?
It's
Oh,
fluctuating
again,
up and down. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can see that now. The New York Times doesn't want to do that auto refresh,
Right.
apparently. Of all the days, I'm telling you, like technology is just not working today. This happened with the sheet that I was telling you about earlier. I finally just got it to work, like panicking in the background, and now.
So yeah, you're working on those graphs showing kind of the patterns tonight, right, Eddie?
Yeah, when the New York Times doesn't want to do it, I guess I'm kicking in. But yeah, I'll be sending that to you guys in a few moments. I'm just trying to make sure everything's clean on here, and this will be getting posted on Reddit soon enough probably by the first break.
Cool. And yeah, just to remind everyone, there's a thread on Reddit that you can actually track the discussion with. I'm going to throw that in the YouTube description so everyone kind of gets a way to see what's going on live.
Perfect. All right. Let's see, 56, 59, 25.
We've got some people, joining us in chat as well. So shout out. Thanks, Jilly Love. It looks like if Paula Jean doesn't win tonight, there's no hope for the Dems. And, them
Whoops.
exit and go green. That is one of the arguments we hear all over progressive sphere, not only on Reddit, but just,
Yeah.
this is one of
And
those races. It's really it's gonna rile up a lot of those arguments. The Dem enter, Dem exit debate. What does the Democratic Party stand for? What did they do to influence this?
yeah, no, and they're totally right. This is a justifiable thing to have. It's a justifiable debate because, again, if both parties don't represent you, what are you going to do? But it's unfortunate that, as I'm going to be dead honest with you guys, it's the feasibility of something like a Dem exit because, wouldn't really happen. Like, I'm going to be, and I will anger people. I'll probably be like the next subject of like libcuck online. you know I guess I'm a shill. No, but
Does it make you a shill to have an opinion? Well, okay. So I
I mean, it's not.
opinion
Yeah,
anything.
it's not. But I mean, it's always nice to listen to, to internal drama.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my thing. But internal drama is my thing. But when it comes to something like this, there has to be. I'm not saying like people losing it on the streets. Like I remember seeing a video like about it's like, is there a second civil war coming? Is there something like, something huge to that extent? And by the way it's going, it's not really, that it's not really there. For something with the Democrats at this time, it shows that these people are in no way, are in no way representative of its base, of its voting bloc, and the people that essentially need them the most. If you put one of these Republicans in, in an urban city, you just take Giuliani. No, a perfect example, mayor of New York City. Yeah, that's. Oh, I'm sorry. If you can keep going for me, it'd help a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I think right now, Paul is doing better than expected. It's pretty good to see that we have, her in the 30% range. That's showing a lot about some of the messaging going in as well. Mm. Now, what that says, I think that forces a little bit of the message to turn. Paula, everyone put her in a place where she wasn't going to do much. Everyone kind of gave the Joe Manchin argument, but this is more indicative of how the voters, I think, are going to feel today about going to the polls on May 8th, 2018. A lot of time has passed. A lot of these arguments have come out, and there's going to be a point to Paul. She said it best today. Regardless of what happens, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting this message. And, we see her climbing a little bit from 30 right now. She's at 32%.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be a good stand against the behemoth message that we otherwise see.
yeah,
More than what other people expected. More than, she's doing better than Dennis right now. She's doing better than the
yeah. She's
Dennis
doing
sample
way
taken in
better than
Ohio.
Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely agree. But I mean, in the case of, I guess, making the case for Dem enter, Dem exit. This in a state like West Virginia, a conversation that hasn't been made in so long. This is the perfect breeding ground for something like that.
Yeah.
Because again, but then the question comes to at what cost? Yeah, and again, I don't believe it personally. I don't believe that if there was a true separation, everything the Democrats are saying are going to go basically to shite. But then after, those considerations do have to be made because again, in a realistic society, in a realistic world, that's what we always have to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the cases of an unrepresentative Democratic Party, this is, this is something that always going to have to stay in our minds when we do consider for a Dem exit. And I've been seeing some ground game when it comes to for People's Party, to draft, the draft Bernie thing, and it's there. And again, it's a conversation that has to be made because again, the only reason Dianne Feinstein has any type of acknowledgement of marijuana and marijuana in her own state is because there's someone, you know, there's someone like who do we have running it? And Allison Hartson. The only reason Dianne Feinstein has any type of support or actual idea about marijuana in a state like California that's had it passed for how long already? For more than half of a year. And now, like now of all the times, she finally comes in to say something when she has a primary. It may not prove to our most best functions to leave, but I guess having the challenge there and apparent makes it a feasible thing. That any threats of you're going to lose your seat because again, politics is a game of power. Politics, is always is always there no matter how like progressive you are or conservative or anything. It's like, how do you maintain that power? Comes into issues like California and the state and West Virginia with Joe Manchin,
Well,
and
there's
only time
something
will tell.
different. I agree completely. That the argument is there, and maybe it's not very fleshed out and made into the clear power dynamics that we have been accustomed to in the party system. But the fact is, there is a pseudo party. There is a machine, working on the progressive message that we've been talking about. And it's really, I think a lot of people tend to label it one way or another. And they like to say that it's the People's Party, right? But then the power dynamic comes in, right? Like who's running the People's Party? And it's really, a matter of, I think, the people's message resonating regardless of what party.
Yeah, definitely.
So using, yeah, I mean, the same kind of campaign strategies as well in the background is part of the strategy. Like, do these candidates run as Democrats? Do they run in their local elections? How does it work? Right. And so that's one element to this, but then there's also the messaging aspect to this that I think is valid and I think draws a line between, what the intention behind our goals as a campaign are and also what the intention of politics in our country can shape up to
Yeah.
be. So, I completely respect your opinion about the Dem exit debate, and a lot of our viewers as well who have opinions about that. I think it's
Yeah.
really important to continue that pressure, and we're going to see that message unfold. As we see the results official pan out tonight. Those are numbers that are going to stand symbolically, and we're going to see something come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I guess after all that rambling with me, how are we going in
So
other
North
states so
Carolina's
far?
coming in some more, and looks like that Jenny Marshall race
Hmm.
uh, is showing up pretty well. She's only 15% away from her opponent Denise Adams currently, um, and that's a tight race. It's just between her and Denise, with about
Oh wow.
5.7% of the precincts reporting. Only a difference of about 1,300 votes. And that can really pan out to be a
Yeah,
good
that's
messaging.
promise.
She's also endorsed by the brand new Congress and Justice Democrats groups, so we're seeing a lot of the machine that we've been talking about represent the message for her there. We recently as a community endorsed her as well on Political Revolution, so it's good to see that it's getting there.
Yeah,
That's North
that's
Carolina's 5th district, just to be clear. Philip Price is still leading in the 11th district, so that's our endorsement of the night, guys. Philip Price is showing Scott Donaldson and Steve Woodsmall what it takes to win.
perfect. Let's not confuse it with Tom Price.
No Tom Prices in the building. No more Pence-related family figures. Yeah, no way. This is not the Republican National Convention. This is PolRev Live, and we're talking about progressive politics. So
you just gotta keep the mood light.
I want to quickly pan through some of the elections that are now coming in West Virginia.
Mhm.
Kendra Furche, she recently just had an AMA on PolRev. She's leading. She's leading by a large margin right now.
How big is
67%
her
to
precinct?
25%.
Oh wow! And which district is she in?
She's in West Virginia CD01.
District 1. Okay. Oh yeah, I can see it now. Yeah, it's a pretty good head start for a large margin like that. And we have an Ojeda running, yes? Yeah, Richard Ojeda. if I'm not wrong. I hope I'm not wrong on like live thing. Yeah, Richard Ojeda, he's currently leading his race with
Oh, did
only
it
one.
flop?
No. It's 1% reporting. So yeah, it's only one district reporting. I mean, one precinct reporting. And so far, he's at 47 to the closest is 32. Yeah, 32.8 for Shirley Love.
That's incredible. I mean, I'm seeing right now on our results, he's still showing 38% to 44%. But if you're seeing an updated result, he must have flipped that. And
Yeah.
see, now that those West Virginia down ballot candidates are really, standing up for the staunch progressive message, uh, just like we've been expecting. And it, regardless of what's going on with Paula tonight, she is doing a lot for the state of West Virginia. And I think one of our heroes in the community even said today that, like, even if she doesn't win, she's going to run for something. She's going to run for mayor. She's going to run for Congress again. She's going to run for state senate, state representatives, and lead the message towards an organized action, and politics will change. So that's really great.
Yeah, and even if that's not the case, and for her political future, this
Mm-hmm.
these results right now show that there's something going on in West Virginia that has to be noted. That there's a possibility that if it's not this regular Democrats, it's going to be progressives that'll retake West Virginia. Only time will tell. And so far, the results, they're trickling in pretty slowly. And the margin's staying about the same.
Yeah.
68 to 31s. But still, if she's doing, the stuff that she's doing in West Virginia right now is going to make some kind of change. It's going to determine,
It already has.
it's going to inspire more progressives. Yeah. It's the same thing that happened with Bernie. It's the same thing that happened with Bernie when he ran. Unfortunately, he didn't win. But it shows that we have, that there's been people energized. And again, we have to continue exerting that message in the rest of the states.
I see. So I want to just quickly touch on, the Dennis Kucinich and Tara Samples race. It looks like there's a 40% gap there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's pretty big. Yeah, it's somewhat disappointing, honestly. But we're going to hear a little bit from the campaign a bit later. Dennis and Tara are going to be at their watch party tonight. So maybe around 9:30 Eastern, we'll kind of jump on air and see what they have to say. And for now, we're watching that result closely. But I want to actually go to a quick break. And during our breaks, we'll actually be getting results from each of the states. So you can keep watching and seeing results up to date. And we'll be back to comment on some of the big changes. But yeah, looking forward to some of these progressive races actually showing a win in messaging. Look out for West Virginia tonight, guys. I think that's going to really have quite an impact. So, Eddie, I think we're going to break. See you on the other side. And we're back. Looks like we have some election coverage updates to come in from those two big races we're following tonight. Uh, and by the way, Glow is here. Glow
Hey
has
guys.
made it to the stream. And we're tracking those two big ones, Dennis Kucinich and Tara Samples. Unfortunately, it looks like Richard Cordray is calling for that election. Oh, Milo, yep, Milo's on the stream too. And also, it looks like we've got in West Virginia, Joe Manchin is getting called as the winner for the Democratic primary for West Virginia senator. So, well, we haven't kind of updated it on our results. We are not, going to jump into calling it right away. It's just something that we're hearing now from New York Times. So, yeah, that's kind of what we all expected, huh, guys?
Well, I mean, I don't think, and we worked with the Kucinich campaign directly, and we actually had Tara on for an Ask Me Anything. Unfortunately, it is typical, I think, of the politics of Ohio. That centrist appeal does very well in the Rust Belt states. That's why we saw Trump do very well in Michigan. We saw Trump do fairly well in Indiana and Ohio. But and unfortunately, we had Elizabeth Warren come out and endorse Cordray, which was, a huge mistake, I think, because we definitely need to take a strong stance against the NRA. If we see any Democrat that has an A rating, it should send huge red flags to everyone.
It's hypocritical, right?
And it's not just about gun ownership. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, it's hypocritical for Elizabeth Warren to suggest that, gun control measures are not required in one state like Ohio, where she stands up for, her own legislation in Massachusetts. And that's just unfair politics, right? Choosing some message for what gain exactly for the Democrats in this regard. It's unfair. And I am disappointed in Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a whole debate about ownership and how far can we take gun control laws, and what do they actually do when people are still obtaining them illegally? Well, unfortunately, you can't really. You can be pro-gun ownership, but as a politician creating policy, that you have to take a strong stance against the NRA. You have to educate people on what these, what gun control laws actually mean about, when people say closing the gun show loophole. I think there's people that benefit from that. There's gun owners that aren't violent, that don't take advantage of those loopholes, but at the same time, they benefit from them in the same way that people with privilege benefit from better education, access to better jobs, and they don't really question it. Unfortunately, the same people who are benefiting from these gun ownership laws are, the people who don't live in these low-income areas that are being shot down every single day on the streets. So, there's something to be said about that. And Elizabeth Warren should not have used her privilege in this case to endorse someone who also is privileged and doesn't understand these concepts very well.
Yeah, didn't Cordray host a gun rally, with open carry on the streets? What was that to prove? What was that proven exactly?
What do you think, Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie, on the streets, right? A student and the National Student Walkout. What did it feel?
It does a disservice. It genuinely does, because again, no one wants to take your guns. Again, I don't have a problem with a person who feels that they want to own a gun. I can't stop you if you truly wish you want to get that. When it comes to the issue of illegally obtaining guns, what do you think is going to happen after we've let them in circulation for so long? We've let them basically circulate around, when they were originally obtained legally, and then God knows what happened to them. Either they stayed in your grandpa's basement for God knows how long that you found it, or someone else found it. Now it's in illegal circulation. We can't stop that because, again, that's how crime works like that. Crime basically works that way, so it becomes an issue. When it comes to everything else, there's still always a chance to stop the next mass shooter. There's still always a chance to stop someone from quote legally obtaining a semi-automatic assault rifle, a semi-automatic rifle.
But then at the same time, they need insurance for that, right? What does that say about guns, their inherent nature, their inherent propensity to create chaos? And what everybody sees is available in the media. Everyone knows about all of the violence attached with guns, and yet they still want to keep their guns. And I just don't see how that excuses them from, actually living up to some of the other progressive intentions and their values. They're progressives who potentially want to keep their guns, right? Bernie has said this from the beginning for his own state.
It's unfortunately one of those issues that has just become very politicized, the same way abortion has been politicized. And I use the word privilege, and a lot of people, I think, fight against that because that word has become used as a slur against, white culture, which is not the intent. The intent is to educate on what privilege is. It's a privilege to own a gun. And again, the problem is not the ownership itself, like we're all saying. No one wants to take away the guns. We want to limit the availability. We want to stop them from going into illegal circulation. We want to stop people from dying. So I only hope that anyone who voted for Cordray, who is a Democrat, who might align with me on every other issue, might hear that and start thinking like, I just don't think we can afford to be a one-issue voter these days. And the people who do vote like that are kind of destroying our democracy a little bit. That's all I have to say. We do have an update from one of the activists on the campaign. Chris Skiba has informed us that Portia Bolger has actually left the executive party committee because of Cordray being the impending candidate for the Democratic Party. Portia Bolger is she's a huge activist in Ohio. She has helped on every major campaign for I don't know how long, and has helped organize campaigns like Mobilize 88, which happened last year. So this is a very huge statement that she's making, and I expect that others will follow suit with her. And it's just more, this is just another smaller example of when Bernie lost at the Democratic convention, and the whole Dem enter, Dem exit.
Yeah. Eddie and I were really talking about that debate tonight.
Yeah.
What's really going to come out of tonight, some of the results that we're tracking. How is this messaging, you think, going to change? How are we going to start seeing, these outright transgressions of policy by Cordray and the progressive message? Now that he's won, what are we going to do to fight that? What are we going to do to hold him accountable?
And it's a very contentious debate, and it's something that I don't really think there is a right answer. The political revolution has attempted to take the broad blanket answer, where in some races it's prudent to enter as a Democrat and try to reform and take over. In some cases, it's prudent to protest and run independently. We've supported, candidates who run as Republicans, who run as independents. This is just another case of why people are so disenfranchised in the Democratic Party. We had the opportunity to elect the first African American legislator state government official in the entire history of Ohio.
Lieutenant
I
Governor
believe.
Tara Samples would have been the first Democrat African American
female. Yeah.
Female as well.
Ever.
Yeah. It could have happened.
Could have happened.
I want to jump into some of the other races that we were tracking. It looks like the one in North Carolina's 5th district.
Let's get back to the result.
Has really tightened. At one point it was at 51-49 for Jenny Marshall.
Which race is this?
This is North Carolina's 5th congressional district. She's closing that gap with about 33, 1/3 of the precincts reporting. Denise Adams is at 53%, and Jenny is at 47%, with just about 700 votes. Just about 700 votes splitting between them.
We should see the results come on the screen very shortly here. That was, what district was that again?
The 5th congressional district.
5th congressional district.
Jenny, once again, is endorsed by BNC, JD, and our community as well.
We might want to, here we go. We're getting there. Sorry, Carl. We might want to go, have we had any updates in Indiana? We might want to like start from the top and go all the way through.
We're just kind of tracking along some of those key races. It looks like the pattern has remained the same throughout Indiana. We have Dion kind of running, but yeah, getting back to North Carolina, Jenny Marshall's race is showing us a very tight race. I mean, we're going to be there watching that all night. It looks like there was a point where there was 51-49, and I think this is a good chance. So this will be fun.
Awesome. Are there any other North Carolina updates? Let's see.
Philip Price is still leading.
Philip Price for North Carolina Congressional District 11 is still leading. For Congressional District 06, unfortunately, Gerald Wong is not in the lead, but we do, even though we can't have a win in every race, we do like to highlight these candidates and empower them, and just highlight how important it is to have this diversity of the progressive message. And it is a little bit of a slow roll. Looks like we're updating those results on the screen.
You win some, you lose some.
There's the Philip Price race.
And if you keep going towards some of the other races, Carl, we have some in the background with Ben Scales. He's just popped up on the results table as well for Buncombe County's district attorney.
Yeah, that's a
That's another close race. Yeah, and we just had Ben Scales on for an AMA, and it was strongly reminiscent of another district attorney, Philip Krasner, or Larry Krasner. I apologize.
Yeah.
Larry Krasner, who recently became Philadelphia's DA. Ben came on an AMA just last week and actually really fleshed out what it takes for our progressive stance to come out on the DA circuits, all across the country. And
he's still within, well, I don't know, there's 88% reporting. He would need to win by a large margin in the last 10 precincts, but it's possible. Eddie, did you want to go through the Ohio results at all?
If I could open that up.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to. I just didn't want to. We're like,
yeah, go for it.
We're like driving here.
No,
but
no,
if you want to, if you want to take on Ohio, by all means.
Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I'll just talk about Ben Scales so you're ready. But yeah, he was inspired by Larry Krasner, who Larry and Bernie just did a town hall, didn't they?
They did.
That was very exciting. I encourage you guys to check that out. Larry was if you're not already following him, he won his race for district attorney of Philadelphia, and he actually within the first 6 months he sued Big Pharma, which is a blanket term. He sued these specific companies and actually dropped a large amount of charges against individuals with minor or marijuana possession charges. You ready, Eddie?
Jump on a quick Ohio update, yeah.
Yeah. you can never be ready when it comes to this, but see what we got. Yeah, so we've already gone through with Cordray, so let me not go through with that.
Yeah.
Who else do we have so far in Ohio? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm like so far behind with you guys. Yikes.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we'll start from District 2.
Sure.
Yeah, with District 2 so far, with Janet Everhart as our endorsed candidate so far, with 31% reporting, she's currently behind with currently behind Jill Schiller, 48.3 to 38. Let's keep going to Janet Garrett in District 4, and she's the winner. I think we've established that before.
Mm-hmm. Janet Garrett's
District 5.
a winner, and we've also called that race. She took off like a storm right in the beginning. One of our Janets is definitely going to win tonight. yeah, that other race you mentioned with Everhard, she's actually starting to close that gap a little bit. So, and with only 13% or so reporting, let's see how
that's a good start then. Yeah, so far with John Michael Galbraith. I hope I said that right. So far, 18% reporting. He's leading with a pretty significant lead, 69.7 to 30. Next is to Marcy. Yeah. See, maybe I think Ohio's going to be that state, guys.
Ohio's showing promise, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a huge. Yeah, this is pretty big compared to.
Lost the gubernatorial. Maybe we can pick up some of these smaller races. We can put some pressure on Cordray here.
We're seeing that similar theme happening, like with West Virginia, and yeah, the down ballot really matters. We're seeing a surge kind of coming from the bottom up, and that's a good thing. That's what we expect.
And the 2 congressional district races in West Virginia, they're winning. The 2 races we've endorsed, they're winning.
And another Ohio win in Congressional District 9, if you wanted to check that one out.
Yeah,
Marcy Kaptur. I was actually about to get to that. Yeah, she won. She's the incumbent for District 9. She's won with 85 to 14 for Joshua Garcia. Next, we'll go to District 10. So far, we've endorsed Michael Milisitz. He's pretty far behind from Teresa Gasper from 69.6 to 7.8.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. And I think that's it so far.
Okay. Let's should we jump to West Virginia? Talk about those congressional wins? Or
Yeah, let's do it.
all right.
So
Paula's actually still doing a pretty remarkable performance, still staying over 30%.
Yeah, it's been maintaining that number for a while now.
That's a strong showing, I've got to say. It looks like Kendra Furché in District 1 is also heading towards a win.
So while we're here, I guess, let me scroll down. The other congressional district that's there. If my computer ever wants to respond. Yeah, with Richard Ojeda, he's still winning with only 23% of the precincts reporting. And they haven't called his race yet, but he's been maintaining a good 55 since the counting started. And yeah, you're definitely right. Paula maintaining. It's unfortunate she lost by, I guess, this kind of margin. But the fact that she's been maintaining that 30% shows that the people that she did talk to really did. The people that there was some people that were enthusiastic with her decisions.
And I think it comes down, so we're seeing like in these higher races in the Senate and the gubernatorial that we're seeing people kind of leading towards the centrist positions, and that's what ultimately our whole revolution is fighting for, to prove that our message can win on the federal level and should be placed into Congress. So I hope that people see that. I hope that people are looking at these smaller races, these congressional races, and as we start to flip the House seat by seat, more and more progressive changes are going to happen. And yeah, it might take until 2020, but we'll see. We've got a long summer full of elections, and we've got generals coming up, midterms coming up in November. Right now we're actually trying to get one of the campaign volunteers for the Dennis Kucinich campaign on. So we might actually see their watch party here in a moment, via our good friend Raymond Brown, who was actually our former executive director. And he's actually been very helpful in the Dennis Kucinich campaign. So hopefully we can get them on.
Yeah, I'm working on that in the background. But beyond, some of the things that are happening in Ohio right now, it feels like there's a lot of people debating right now about, what happened with Dennis Kucinich. Like, a lot of people also have denied that he even had a chance of winning. Where, I don't know, I think there's the Grassroots for Kucinich group. We've been working with them a lot lately, and they've shown to be able to argue, despite the messaging that's been available regarding gun control, like you were talking about, Chloe, and regarding, pro-Syria, Assad talks, that, the same thing that Tulsi had experienced. These arguments are available in the mainstream media, but we're cutting through that crap, and we want to actually talk about the progressive policies that matter for the state of Ohio. Let me just be clear about that. That's what Grassroots for Kucinich is about. That's what messaging for the progressive revolution is about.
Mm-hmm.
While it's sad what's happening in Ohio, I want to hear what they have to say. Sure.
Yeah, I can't wait. Let's see.
Unfortunately, we're not going to win every race, and there is going to be corporate media spins against the progressive movement, against some of the messaging that we're trying to push, that we know it all comes down to intersectionality and systemic issues that need to change. For example, I was looking on my Twitter feed the other day, and I saw an article by Politico about what we're getting wrong about the opioid crisis, or essentially why we can't fight it. And it gave all these reasons, like, okay, well, if we stop giving people painkillers, what are they going to do to fight pain? And it's like, I didn't see marijuana mentioned once in that article. People don't, I think there's a certain amount of people that don't even understand to what degree the federal ban and scheduling of marijuana has an effect on this country. It has an economic effect. It has a mental health effect. It has a criminal justice effect. It has an educational effect. It has a health system effect. It can be used as a remedy for cancer and cancer symptoms. Recreationally, it's been shown to be much less harmful than alcohol, and almost having no negative side effects. Some, and even the long-term side effects that are argued for, there's not a huge amount of study, well, due to the fact that it is Schedule II and it's so hard to actually perform studies on marijuana. And I love to talk about marijuana and marijuana policy. The point being that there's kind of a mentality out there, going back to the opioid article that I was reading, there's an obstructionist mentality. There's kind of a mentality where it's like, oh, well, this is always the way that we've done things, or oh, this is why things can't change. Well, let's talk about why they can, and if the solutions we have in place now are that harmful, and we're just telling people, oh, you just got to suck it up, like when people say, oh, the cost of living is too high, and it's like, oh, well, you're not working hard enough. It's like, excuse me, the housing market is just all over the place. We just moved to Denver, Colorado, and you can't get a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, like a nice one, for like under $1,200 a month, which is just ridiculous. You have to be making $50,000 a year income to approve for any sort of housing loan or or even like a rental application. And it's like that is the median household income in the entirety of America right now. And most people are living below that. And we just have to work harder, I guess. We just have to deal with our painkillers and be addicted to them. We just have to deal with the shitty education system. We're not going to deal with that. There is the message of progressivism is that there is common sense change that can happen. And there's policy to back it up. And there's examples of other countries that are doing it better than us. It's not like we're just pulling answers out of our asses. It's not like Bernie Sanders, one of the most successful and popular politicians of our time, or of any recent time, is happening. Sorry, Karsh wants to go over results. But anyways.
Oh, I do now.
Bernie Sanders is great.
Yeah, we know that, guys. We know that. Okay, so I wanted to kind of jump into Indiana a little bit. It looks like we have some called elections. Unfortunately, Dion Douglas did not win in Indiana's 5th congressional district. It's been called for D. Thornton. And what were you saying? Like, you just say it out loud.
No, I was being sassy.
Oh, Dion unfortunately didn't have a website. So the hero of our community, this goes out to you for now. You were right. No website does not translate into an election win.
Sometimes we give tough love, but we encourage any candidate we endorse to jump on our subreddit and do like a Q&A. Okay. And we give this, that's kind of the service that it provides, is this feedback of what can you do better for your campaign, and hopefully it translates to votes. So. And
we also have a call for Indiana's 6th congressional district. Lane Siekman, the endorsed candidate by our community, also came in 3rd there. It looks like Janine Lee Lake has taken that victory. And Indiana is actually on fire with calling elections. Looks like we're pretty much done with Indiana. I would say, yeah, the pattern's showing that most of our endorsed candidates are not going to cut it in Indiana. We also have calls for District 7 in Indiana. Andre Carson has defeated everyone in the race. Sue Spicer, our endorsed candidate, didn't make it there.
She came in 2nd, though, and the spin there is that these people, even if they're not winning, they're coming close in 2nd place, and they're winning votes.
In this case, not so close, but the percentage shows a lot.
Right.
I mean, it was 88% for the winner, but Sue over the other candidates, it shows something about, the progressive machine working. And right. Like we were talking about, Eddie, earlier, the machine, this pseudo party, this percentage has weight. Right. There's a little bit of a tide in that. Like, where is this messaging even getting on the map?
Right.
And we're seeing it, like exactly. What you're saying, 2nd place.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between 580 votes and almost nearly 3,000. We're able to provide awareness. We're able to provide empowerment to that. message.
So going on, Congressional District 9, Liz Watson has defeated the endorsement candidate Daniel Cannon. He came in second, 31% showing to 66%. So beyond that, Indiana's still kind of waiting on results to be finalized. Let's kind of get some thoughts about Indiana. Like Eddie, we were talking about, you know, the Republican Greg Pence over there, this symbolic state where, yeah, we see a lot of red versus blue arguments, right? Also another Midwestern state, it's a neighbor of Ohio.
Yeah, no, it's going to continue coming like this. And they also renominated Joe Donnelly for the Senate. You know, he's the incumbent Democrat in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And along with Joe Manchin, he's one of the most vulnerable. He's one of the most vulnerable to lose their seats. So now only time will tell in the general if, you know,
Indiana starts to go red. Right. And
yeah. I mean, Indiana's been red for a while now.
That's a concern, isn't it? It's a Midwestern stronghold. And I mean, it has been, you know, tarnished by the Republicans. You know, Mike Pence, the current vice president, has really, really bad reputation there for just basically giving up on the state. And now there's still this Republican wave. There's still voters getting out to be proponents of this, you know, dismantling really of the ethics and standards of what government should be doing.
You know, I think it really comes down to a debate that's happening in rural America. It's happening in areas that have been kind of abandoned from both parties. I mean, I would equate, you know, Indianapolis to, you know, areas of Detroit. You know, there's and even Chicago, you know, Illinois, Ohio, Toledo. The same story kind of keeps resurfacing, and unfortunately, these people are very vulnerable to messaging, and sometimes messaging does not equate with policy, unfortunately. And again, I think there's a lot of one-issue voters out there. I don't know what the major issues are in Indiana, but and I hate to beat the bush, but or beat a dead horse, but the reason Trump and Bernie were so popular is because they centered their platforms around the economic policies, which everyone can kind of get behind, and behind the populist policies instead of, I don't know. I think Medicare for all is kind of a divisive issue. But at the same time, many Democrats want that. You know, there's been many polls that have said that, you know, Democrats who want to win in 2020 and 2018 need to center their platforms around that. But I think we're still fighting that battle in terms of what does it mean for people. I think when people hear, you know, it's funny. I'm thinking back to a town hall that Bernie did where he asked a Republican, like, you know, do you want to repeal the Affordable Care Act? Well, yeah. Well, do you want to get rid of Obamacare? Well, no. Do you want Medicare for all? Well, yeah. You know, it's almost like the Republican, like you were saying, Karsh, has tarnished the messaging so much that people don't even know that, like, that the fact that the ACA is Obamacare, and they don't understand that Medicare for all is going to cover people no matter what, and you're actually going to not have to pay as much money. You're gonna not have to pay your insurance premiums. You know, even though we'd all be taxed a little bit more, you wouldn't be paying your, you know, $1,000 insurance premiums. So, hey, Raymond.
Look at that.
So it looks like we got Ray to jump in from the Dennis and Tara watch party. How's it feeling over there, Ray?
I think he's still setting up a little bit.
We might be we might be just waiting on Ray. But we want to get a chance to see what it's like right now in Ohio on the ground. Definitely feels like a lot of frustration kind of going on with, you know, the voters in Ohio and the debate between whether Kucinich could have even won. Well, we'll have to see how this pans out going on.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's a part of a long-term battle. And the fact that they gained as many votes as they did, I think that is a win. It is the win for the progressive movement. And that's just kind of how we have to take these things. We have to look at the numbers and see that even though we're not winning the majority vote, we're still winning in an incremental fashion.
Vote.
We're
you know,
right.
The genuine vote.
And when we actually reach those people, when we're hitting a true mark in a sense.
Well, we can also point out, the non-truth in their, you know, the person who won tonight, the Cordray, the NRA, the corporate interest, the ability for the machine with the aid of money to have results. And that's an important question to continuously, you know, beat into asking the American people, like, what is a genuine vote these days?
And I think, what does it mean, honestly, to give into fear? I think people vote out of fear, and sometimes they don't even realize it. And that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Like, when we're presented the opportunity of change, people don't always want to change. Oh, well, that wouldn't work. Oh, well, this might happen. Oh, well, it's easier to do this. Is it easier to let people die, you know, by not implementing gun control laws? Is it really easier, you know?
Well, that's what money says. That, you know, humans are capital. Yeah. And it is easier to let this capital die.
Do we possibly, it's terrible. Do we possibly want to go on a break and like help Ray get set up?
Let's take a quick break, and we'll continue panning those results. You know, one of the big races to continue following is Jenny Marshall in North Carolina. She's still, you know, trailing just by a few percentage points, 6%.
Yeah, so we do have some wins and
more wins to report after.
Yeah.
So let's jump to a quick break. We'll be up. So looks like we have Dennis live coming from the party that we wanted to throw back on stream. So we're just getting that stream back up, guys.
Democrats to stand for Medicare for all. Universal, single payer. Americans want Democrats who will stand for clean air and clean water, and we don't have to choose between pollution and die. All across this country, people want Democrats to stand for higher wages, such as a $15 minimum wage. Free college. Justice reform. To stand for jobs, not jail. And I am convinced, talking to people across this state, that people want Democrats who will stand for safer neighborhoods and who will stand for getting rid of these assault weapons. The people of Ohio have made their conclusion today in this election, and we have to respect the results of this election. I always do. We respect the results of elections when we win or lose. I want you to know that about 15 minutes ago, I contacted Richard Porter and I congratulated him on his election. And I think that all of us here should join in congratulating him on his election. We move forward. We move forward in a cause that is much bigger than a single campaign. Yes. This is a movement. It's a movement that involves people of all colors, all economic situations. It's a movement that involves the heart and the soul of this state and of this country. A woman who has been with me in this journey, who's represented, who's a woman of heart and soul, a woman of passion, and a woman of conviction to represent the people in the city of Akron. I want to introduce now and ask you to join me in giving a tremendous and rousing applause and appreciation to Tara Samuels.
So it looks like, Dennis has conceded to Cordray, and we're sorry for the audio there. That's kind of the best we can get with somebody on the grounds there at the campaign right now. So looks like, Dennis did concede to Cordray, and that race is disappointing nonetheless. That's the best we can kind of really say about it at this point. And it looks like a lot of the looks like they are panning out and closing up for the night. We've got, basically all the races to kind of run through and show where we've called them, and let's go from there.
Yeah. Just wanted to share what Raymond, who was the camera person in that video, thank you for connecting with us. Yeah, so he said that everyone was proud of the work that had happened, but ultimately they were kind of upset that the race got called so early based on, mail-in votes, based on early voting. And it's very unlikely that Dennis will pull ahead, but at the same time, it's kind of indicative of, things that we've seen in the past, with these kinds of races where people are eager to just kind of call these races for the establishment candidates. And what matters is that we put in the effort there, and the network that was on the ground doing the work for Dennis was the same network that was on the ground in Ohio doing the work for Bernie. Again, our Raymond, the volunteer there, was actually the
former executive director
of the Political Revolution. And Portia Bolger was.
Well, that's a big thing that happened tonight. I might want to show the tweet that she actually sent to the Democratic chair of Ross County in Ohio. Once again, I'm going to quickly show you guys this on screen. Yeah, she's done. She's no longer a Democrat. She just sent this to the Ross County Democratic Party. I'm writing to let you know that I'm resigning from the executive committee now as of May 8th, 2018. She's not willing to be a member or support a party that supports people like Richard Cordray. That's one of the biggest activists in Ohio right there, a progressive Democrat. Well, no longer a Democrat, huh?
Right. And she will be taking 22,000 Twitter followers, which translates to, that really does translate to people on the ground that she has organized with and for. And, it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. Again, going back to the Dem enter, Dem exit. argument. I think a lot of people argue, well, oh, she's splitting the party. No, that's not what's happening. She's no longer supporting a party that isn't supporting us. It's a huge statement to make. And we'll kind of see what happens on the ground in Ohio, because you can bet Portia is going to be right there for the next gubernatorial race. So
beyond that, the local races,
right,
the
local
88
races.
different districts in Ohio that
Right.
need progressive change. I mean, that's the theme of tonight, really. We're seeing not just the major races kind of, have a statement on messaging, seeing percentages are really high in West Virginia, for example. Seeing Dennis and Tara also in second place. That there's a machine, like Eddie and I were discussing before, with progressive messaging that is making a mark. And that's the theme of tonight, not only with those big races, but in the down ballot races. The congressional districts we see in Ohio, they're starting to show wins for the progressive message. The progressive races in West Virginia, the local down ballot races.
And really, right now, it's a race by race, case by case fight that we're having, where some districts are ready, others aren't. And again, we're seeing more on these federal level races where there's, we're a little bit slower to enforce that progressive policy, like we saw with the re-election of Joe Manchin, or the reconsideration of him as a Democratic candidate. So, yeah, and I love to rag on Joe Manchin all day long. I think there was a meme that circulated, like, I don't know, a month or so ago, where he was seen at one event, pro Planned Parenthood, and then in another event against it within the same week or something like that. So, unfortunately, the way that centrist candidates are winning is because they are playing both sides, but not in the right way. It's not okay to be two-faced. It's okay to find a middle ground, but not when it comes to some of these issues where we have to make progressive change, like Planned Parenthood. We should never. A lot of the smear tactics against Planned Parenthood from the Republican side are just not even factual. Like women getting abortions in the third trimester, right? Anyways.
So let's kind of give an update to everyone on those West Virginia races, because we do have some wins there. Kendra Furchet has officially won her race in West Virginia's 1st congressional district. And so has Richard Ojeda. Now fully, reporting, actually almost getting there. It's at 67% for their precincts reporting. And there's a clear pattern developed there.
Right. So again, we're seeing these more local races are having, being more open to that progressive message. We're able to win. We're making strides. We're winning locally. We're winning on the state level, on the House level, but we're kind of meeting some resistance on the Senate and the gubernatorial level. But did you want to say something about Manchin, Eddie? No, it's too bad for camera. Okay.
It's so right.
It's not too bad. It's just too late.
It's too late.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna interject this, and then I'm back into hiding. Don Blankenship will not win. If there's a plus to any of this, Don Blankenship is not going to win the Republican nomination for the Senate.
I'm hearing Paula is doing a good enough showing here that, the Republicans are not even doing as well as her. So that's like a level of messaging that is strong. The blue wave is kind of, a true phenomenon going on there.
Yeah, more Democrats have voted in this race than the Republicans.
Yeah.
So that's a show.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that she's still hovering above 30%. Honestly, that's a huge achievement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is.
And we're seeing her, we're seeing all the people who followed in her footsteps in those congressional races really step up
Right.
and make some changes.
And one, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier or not, but another West Virginia candidate who just won her primary because she didn't have a challenger was Lissa Lucas. And she's very popular. Yeah, I can't wait to see her beat out the Republican candidate in November.
Yeah, we had a bunch of those other candidates, uncontested, really, that we've endorsed to kind of embellish the fact that, yeah, the message is still strong with all of these seats available. Anyone can run. Anyone can bring this progressive cause, to government and start enacting the changes we want to see in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So go listen.
Yeah. Yeah, Kendra for sheezy,
just one. She just won for sheezy.
Yeah. And we mentioned earlier.
Richard Ojeda won.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, but she didn't ask me anything. And these West Virginia candidates, man, they're very like, I don't know what the word would be, but like full of solidarity.
They won't be held down.
We saw Stephanie Zucker, another West Virginia candidate, come on, and they kind of like backed each other up and asked me anything, and that was so great to see.
Mm-hmm.
And especially Stephanie was like a first-time Reddit user, but she was so open to learning and open to the questioning.
I'm sure, really one of the things that is going to continue, now that Paula has lost is that message of solidarity, that group galvanizing kind of purpose that we see in West Virginia, in all other states. All these progressive candidates are going to start coming together. Who won, who didn't win, and how do we have, a coherent, cohesive message in it? So Paula, she still has a huge role in leading that discussion for West Virginians, for the national movement. Mm-hmm. There's a very symbolic aspect to it that, gets me thinking that this is a good thing. So go Paula.
Yeah. I love Paula. She's so personal and so, she kind of took that authenticity to the next level. She runs her own Twitter account.
And she's always available. She's always been one-on-one with her followers, the progressive movement, acting as a uniting force in all progressive messaging. She has the right attitude. And I think people from all sides really believe that. Mm-hmm. So I think we should, kind of wrap this this results night up a little bit. Let's kind of run through each state and just announce who the winners are. Mm-hmm. And you can always keep up to date on the final numbers by clicking on the Reddit link to the thread with election results.
Mm-hmm. Everything we're showing on the screen here is back to the Reddit results thread, which is pinned to the top of the subreddit, political_revolution.reddit.com.
Yep. Check out all those links in the description. Thanks for watching us, guys. Let's go through each race and kind of talk about what wins we had tonight. Let's start with Indiana. Tough place, but we had our endorsements kind of come in around second and third in terms of their percentages. So for Indiana's 5th congressional district, we had Dee Thornton announced as the winner. And we'll actually throw these up on screen so you can take a look. And remember, they'll be finalized on the Reddit thread, just like so. Dee Thornton in Indiana 5 with about 52% of the vote. So they're on to Democratic general election. Then in CD06, Janine Lee Lake has taken the victory. You'll see that our candidates are actually bolded. Right now you're seeing Dion on the screen, and you'll be able to kind of track along to see where our endorsements have succeeded and where they stand in a line, alongside some of the other candidates. So Lane Siekman, he unfortunately came in third. Moving on to Congressional District 7, Andre Carson, the incumbent, has won that race. And in Congressional District 9, we see Daniel Cannon, our endorsement, came second to Liz Watson. So Indiana, was a fairly tough night for progressives, but let's move on to North Carolina. We still have one race here that's not able to be called, but let's start from Congressional District 4. David Price, the incumbent, he's won pretty outright. I may have skipped actually Congressional District 2. Linda Coleman has a pretty fairly large lead here, so I would say that pattern is showing her to kind of pull ahead. And I wouldn't suggest that is going to change much later on to the night, but we're not going to call that yet. Keep up to date once this thread is fully up to date. Jenny Marshall, this is the race that I was talking about earlier. Jenny Marshall is still very close to Denise Adams. We'll update the thread to let you know how that all turns out. And Gerald Wong in North Carolina's 6th district, unfortunately, came second to Ryan Watts. That race has been called. Philip Price of North Carolina's 11th congressional district has a pretty substantial lead, 90% reporting in precincts. And we're still about, 9% ahead. So once again, this is another race that we're kind of watching to the close to see who's going to win. But at this point, I would also be very confident about Philip Price. Looks like the Buncombe County District Attorney General has gone to Todd Williams, the incumbent, by a very close margin, 6%. And now that's a tough one. Ben Scales was definitely the inspired kind of progressive candidate there.
Yeah, and also Todd, didn't he have some sort of scandal or something? Or he just handled something poorly.
Yeah, there have been
certain criminal cases. You can read all about it
cases.
in the Ask Me Anything.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and do some Ohio?
Yeah, I'll continue on with Ohio. So this is where we're starting to get in some endorsed wins with Janet Garrett. Sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. First of all, we have Ohio Congressional District 2. Jill Schiller is in the lead, with Janet Everhard lagging behind. It's only at 60% reporting. Janet would have to take a lot of those votes to win. But
the other Janet.
But the other Janet is winning, and that race has been called again. So that's win number 1, I believe. Or do we have any North Carolina?
For Ohio, yes.
For Ohio, yes. Well, actually, sorry. Let me go back.
Yeah, we already announced some of the wins.
Moving on to Congressional District 5, we also have a win with John Michael Galbraith, with a very large margin of 70%. Another win, Congressional District 9, Marcy Keptour. Moving on to Congressional District 10, that race has been called for Teresa Gasper, who is not the endorsed candidate. Michael Millistis was coming in third. Congressional District 12. That had a lot of Democrats running, actually. That had 7 Democrats running, and the endorsed candidate is coming in third. That race is still reporting with only 41% reporting. So keep watching the thread for those results. Moving on to Lieutenant Governor and Governor.
We know about this one.
We know about this one. It's a sad one, but I don't know. It was called very early. We've only got 55% reporting. They would have to take a very large chunk of the votes once again.
It's called.
But it's been called. I just like to keep hope alive, whatever. And we love you, everyone that worked on that campaign. We worked very closely with those people, namely Chris, Raymond, Alex, where Chris was basically running the texting program there, or doing the majority of the campaigning there. And yeah, we loved having Tara on for the Ask Me Anything, and thank you guys for all of your support there. It was a very, very grassroots campaign.
Moving on.
And Congressional District 10, I'm sorry, State House District 10. That one is only reporting at 17%, so it's too early to call, but the endorsed candidate, it's a large field of Democrats, and the endorsed candidate is in 6th place, excuse me.
Looks like that'll go to Terrence Upchurch.
Yeah, probably. State House District 12, also only at 17% reporting. Ivanka Hall is in 3rd place, but she's at 10% to Juanita's 48%. So, yeah, I think that will probably go to Juanita there. State House District 13, it hasn't been called yet. It's only 25%, but the endorsed candidate, Michael Skindell, is in the lead. So hopefully we can chalk that up to another win later. State House District 14. It's a close race. It's only within 300 votes, with only 25% reporting. Bride Rose Sweeney is in the lead, but the endorsed candidate, Steve Haleko, is trailing right behind there. So let's keep an eye on that one for sure. And now we're moving on to West Virginia. Did you want to switch back? Or Eddie, if you're following along, did you want to wrap up with West Virginia there?
Yeah, I guess let's wrap it up.
All right.
So far tonight we're finally 82% of the precincts reporting. Joe Manchin's so far leading with 69.7 of the vote to Paula Jean's 30.3. So throughout this night, she's maintained at least 30% throughout the night. So far, going to the Republicans, which was another major one. Not for our case, but with the case of Don Blankenship, in his run, he will not be the Republican nominee, and most likely Patrick Morrissey is going to be the Republican nominee to contest Joe Manchin in November. In District 1, Kendra Fershey has won with 48.7 with 93% reporting. In District 3, we have Richard Ojeda, another endorsed candidate of ours, winning with 52% of the vote. And I don't think we had anyone for District 2, but let's just say it, since so far with 54% reporting, Tally Sargent is winning with 58 to Alan Scheinberg's 38.2. And that's the game.
I think there are, some down ballot races that are still on the thread that haven't really been, finalized and are still very tight. So those are some races that we want to hold off for and actually finalize. So check on that thread. Most likely tomorrow morning, we'll have everything up to date and we'll know a full picture of kind of what's going on. It's been a good fight for the progressive message this year, all the way leading up to the start. This is just the start, guys.
And we do have, even with all these close races, we also had, like we mentioned earlier, we had some people who were unchallenged And those are listed at the bottom of the very bottom of the Reddit thread. But there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4,
We did have
5,
we did have a
6,
couple
7,
of
8,
wins.
9.
We had a couple of wins in Indiana
Yeah.
tonight, so don't forget about that. State House District 15.
Chris
Chung. And Our Revolution endorsed, as well as our community. And for the Wayne Township trustee seat, Chuck Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and also of note, well, there's 9 of them. David Wilson Brown in North Carolina for Congressional District 10. Dennis L'Italian in Carteret County Commissioner District 6 for North Carolina. And there's some Ohio favorites. Sherrod Brown for the primary for U.S. Senator, and Kim McCarthy, also very popular for State House District 73. And for
Kim McCarthy in Ohio, I think she's on for an AMA. It's coming up very shortly too.
Yes, on the 15th.
On the 15th, great.
So next Tuesday. And
then we have some of the West Virginia candidates. Just to wrap up, Stephanie Zucker, like you were mentioning earlier, Glow, she won her race. Lissa Lucas. This is District 14 and District 7, respectively. And then last but not least, District 65 for the West Virginia State House went to Sammy Brown.
Yeah. And we're moving a little fast, but I think we'll probably pan out with some candidate photos for you so you can see their beautiful faces and see those wins there. But yeah, thanks for following along. It's always fun to do these kinds of things, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, guys. We had plenty of wins tonight, and we're looking forward to the next one. If you want to jump in and help out, check out some of the links below. We have our Slack and our Discord where we can continue the conversation, and we look forward to keeping this the genuine progressive media front. We're battling the mainstream here. And thanks to all of our efforts, all of our partners here joining us in this cause, we appreciate some genuine kind of progressive energy here, and that's what we're going for. So thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you, Eddie, for joining us. Thank you, Carl, for running tech in the background, and thank you everybody in the political revolution. Cheers and good night.
Night.